So we're going to go over these globally reusable workflows and then a couple of issues adding workflow associations. So couldn't find a suitable task list, and the workflow templates could not be retrieved from the server. So the first one, what I was showing, is there could be a situation where you've associated a workflow to a list, and originally the task list may have been just tasks, and then the approval workflow would have been associated with the tasks and then saved. But then the task list may get deleted, and then a new one may get created with a new name like tasks 1, as I have here. But if you don't actually go in to the workflow and save it under the new list, when you do the migration, you'll see that error during the workflow stage. And that error, of course, is couldn't find a suitable task list on the target. That's just because internally that association was still looking for the old list. So to fix that, you need to go into the source site, go into the workflow, and you actually have to step through and save the workflow so it's now associated with the right task list internally. So that corrects all of the references, so that when we do recopy, when we recopy it, we'll find that it should be then successful. So the other one I was showing is the more or less the most common workflow issue, and the only error that you really see is that the workflow template could not be retrieved. Then please ensure all necessary features are activated. And what that means is in the site collection features, you want to make sure that on your target site collection workflows and also SharePoint 2007 workflows, both of those features are activated. The SharePoint 2007 workflows, of course, mainly if you are actually migrating from SharePoint 2007. Otherwise, this is the workflows feature is the one you want active. So when you'll see that if you're doing like a sub-site migration to a new site collection, and you may not have activated that feature yet. If you do copy the entire site collection, if you do a copy site collection and paste site collection, then when you activate, so you copy the site features, and those will that will actually activate the features that you need. So you won't have to do that if you're doing a site collection copy. Only if you're doing a sub-site copy to an existing site collection, you need to make sure that feature is activated. So the last one that I was discussing is the globally reusable workflows. So if you look at the source, you can go into SharePoint Designer, and basically you can create a globally reusable workflow that is associated, so it's associated to a content type. Then you publish it globally so that whenever a content type is added to a list, that content type it exposes their custom workflow so it can be used on any list with that content type. So when we migrate that to SharePoint 2010 right now, or 2013, what you'll find is that you'll have to republish the workflow. So it'll have to be republished globally on the target, and then you'll have to probably go back into where the content type is associated to the list, and you may have to re-add that workflow itself. That's something that we do have our developers investigating right now, and we'll fix that functionality so that the workflow won't have to, or the workaround won't have to be applied in the future. So I do have a couple of questions, it seems. So one of the questions I see, can you also migrate a list or library with the workflows? So right now, in order to copy workflows, we do have to copy a full site. So part of the reason for that is that we may need to copy the proper task list or workflow history, which is associated with the workflow. So, the tool right now, if you try to copy a single library, so I try to paste the list. You can see there's no workflow options available for that, so it's only available at the full site level. So I have a question here that is there any way to copy only the ghost files? I'm afraid we'll have to get a bit of a clarification on what you may mean by the ghost files. If you are referring to ghosted ASPX pages, that would be available for ghosted pages. We can only do that across the same version of SharePoint. So if you're doing a 2010 to 2010 migration and you have publishing pages that may have been detached from their existing layouts, so you can go into you can open a publishing page that you've created, and you can open it in SharePoint Designer and customize it. Now, if you want to preserve those customizations, you simply uncheck the option to reattach publishing page layouts, and that will preserve those customizations. So I have a question: what happens to the workflow history when you need to attach or assign the workflow again? So if we're referring to the task list issue or the globally reusable issue, it depends. So if it's if you have to go and update the task list, the workflow history would remain intact, right? So well, there's workflow history and then there's workflow tasks. So if you had created a number of workflows based on one task and that task list gets deleted and a new one created, well, of course, we need to reassociate the task list to the new, reassociate the workflow to the new task list. And then, of course, any of the workflow tasks that would be brought over would be only from the new task list. Of course, workflow history would all remain the same as long as the workflow history list has not changed either. I hope that answers that question. Okay, great. Did anyone have any other questions? Any issues that you're seeing on workflow related migrations? I see one person is mentioning SharePoint Organizer. So can I briefly describe SharePoint Organizer? Perhaps if we have some time at the end, we could, or we could actually take that as a new quick take, and perhaps dedicate a full quick take session to the organizer, content matrix organizer, and then we could sort of have a run through on that. So we will be, of course, posting this workflow session on our Knowledgebase article. So we are recording it and we will post it. So it will be available on our Knowledgebase in the customer portal. So there is other information. If you need to know information about how to generally migrate workflows, of course I went through the quick takes session 1 on workflows, which is also up on our knowledge base. That could help for anyone which is new to the product that might want a little more of an overview about workflows. In that session, I went through setting up and SharePoint Designer workflows and what to look out for, and also Nintex workflows, attaching external databases. And the main thing about the workflows that we do want to be aware of is that these are the associations are meaning what is attached to a list or a content type. So that workflows may be initiated, and then there are workflows that have already been initiated, which we call workflow instance data, and whether or not you want to preserve the instances that have been started, such as a document. So if we have our approval workflow and I'm attaching a document, now so when I launch my approval, this becomes the workflow instance data. So a question is, with Content Matrix Organizer, can we migrate workflows, including Nintex? Well, the Organizer cannot does not support the Nintex workflow migration at this point. So this is my workflow that's in progress. So that's the workflow. This is the workflow instance data that I'm referring to. And of course, doing that requires directly writing to the database. So I really myself don't recommend that we preserve the instance data, just the associations. Now, if we look at Organizer, now let's see if I have. If we can get this central admin launched, we'll go to the reorganize. I think we'll definitely want to actually set up a whole session for Organizer. Anyone interested in looking at the functionality and setup of Organizer. We'll just take a quick look at what kind of settings are available when we want to migrate sites using the Reorganize. So we'll just do quick, say we'll just copy this and paste it here just to get up this dialog. So here we got workflows. So this is all that we can do with the Organizer at this point, is we can preserve list workflow associations. So pretty basic. No content type workflow associations or globally reusable or Nintex. These are really just out of the box workflows. And it's really a subset of the full functionality of Content Matrix to give users just a quick migration. So this is what I really wanted to show, is that the Organizer could be used to preserve the list workflow associations. Okay. So does anyone have any other workflow questions that you wanted to ask? We have a couple minutes left over. Okay. I see we have one question about modifying metadata, but again, that could be something that we want to have another session on. If we, we'll do that. We'll do a full session on Organizer to answer those particular questions. And yeah, we do have, the documentation, of course. When you download the latest version of Content Matrix, the zip package comes with a whole set of documentation for Organizer and Content Matrix that is really good additional documentation. That plus you can always look on our knowledge base for any other product-related issues. Okay, so I guess that will wrap up. Thanks a lot, everybody. Have a great day.